This is going to help us be able to do lesson 3.7. So there are ways that we can prove that triangles are congruent. If you have been to geometry class before, or kind of remember geometry from high school, or had friends that were in geometry class, they probably talked about proofs. For whatever reason, students remember proofs. It's such a horrible experience, maybe, that's what comes out of a year of content. The only thing that sticks out is proofs and the Pythagorean theorem, those two things. Okay, now here's the thing. When I taught traditional public school, we spent a month and a half on proofs. We're going to spend about 20 minutes on proofs. You're welcome, is what you needed to say there. Thank you. Okay, so, and here's the thing. Guys, again, this is, I'm teaching geometry in 90 minutes, so this is kind of an overview. So we're not going to go super deep into proofs. It's not going to be like you're going to have nightmares about it. Okay? You're going to be just fine. So this is going to help us. So we're going to start laying the foundation for that. To prove that triangles are congruent, we have to know a couple rules. There are 5 ways that we can prove that a triangle is congruent to another triangle. The first way is by side, side, side. If 2 triangles are congruent by side, 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 you see that there? That means that all 3 pairs of sides match up. So let's go ahead and match these up. Side with a side. Second side matches with the second side. The third side matches with the third side. That is enough information to say, hey, these 2 triangles are exactly the same. And if all the sides match up, then that means that all the angles are going to match up too because of CPCTC. That congruent triangle thing that says, hey, if you know that your triangles are congruent, which we do by side, 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 then everything else matches up. Okay? Then we have side, angle, side. Here's the important thing to remember about side, angle, side. That the included angle, another word for included, is between. Notice in SAS, the angle is in between the 2 sides. Do you guys see that? Okay. So when we mark these, let's go ahead and mark this side congruent with this side. And then we'll do the bottom side congruent to the bottom side. If we only know that 2 pairs of sides are congruent, but we know that the included angle, so that would be this angle here. The included angle, notice it is between the 2 sides, right? Between this side and this side is that angle. You guys okay with that? Okay, so then over here it has to be the included angle. If the angle is not included, if it was one of the other 2 angles, it would not be side, angle, side. All right? Then we have angle, side, angle, which just means the side now needs to be where? In between the 2 angles, okay? So if we choose the top angle and the small little angle down here, why don't you mark on your paper what you think, which side you think needs to be matched up? If we're going to do angle, side, angle, and the side needs to be matched up, which side do you think needs to be congruent? The one in between them, which is this one. Did anyone put that right on their paper? Correct on their paper. Good. Okay, so it's really important that we're doing angle, side, angle that the side is in the middle. Then we have angle, angle, side. And some of you are thinking, wow, how am I ever going to keep these straight? Well, you're really just looking at the diagram. That's how you're going to keep it straight. Okay? So angle, angle, side, which just means we have 2 angles. So let's mark this angle and this angle, this angle, and this angle. Sorry, I'm in your way. If we want angle, angle, side, which side needs to be marked congruent? Mark it on your paper. If we have angle, angle, side, which side needs to be marked congruent? How many of you marked this side? Did any of you mark the bottom side? Elvis and Tylea. Is this still angle, angle, side? Angle, angle, side. Is that one still angle, angle, side? Yeah. Okay, so it can be either or. Angle, angle, side is the only one that's a little bit tricky like that, where it could be either or. So if you put that long side, you're correct. If you put the bottom side, you're also correct. Okay? Angle, angle, side is the only one that's flexible. All right? Okay, so then we have what's called HL. HL means hypotenuse leg. We've not learned about hypotenuse yet. We learn about that in the next unit. But the hypotenuse is the side of a triangle that is always across from the right angle. So we have right angle, and if both of those right angles are 90, then doesn't that mean that those angles are congruent already? Okay, so if you have a 90-degree triangle, then you already have an angle and an angle that matches up. The hypotenuse, which would be this side, across from the 90-degree angle. If you need to make yourself a note, this is the hypotenuse. Weird word. The hypotenuses are congruent, and so is one of the legs. Now, the other two sides are called legs, so it doesn't matter. You could do this leg and this leg, or you could do the bottom leg. But now we have the hypotenuse congruent and one of the legs congruent. So this is hypotenuse leg. Now let me show you what this really looks like. We have angle, side, and then we have what? Another side. So really, this is angle, side, side. But we don't call it angle, side, side because we don't write this word in school. Okay? So when you think it's angle, side, side, you can remind yourself that it's actually HL. And it only works if it's a right triangle. Okay? ASS only works if it's a right triangle. And because it's a right triangle, we use HL instead. Now there's actual geometry theory behind this, but for kicks and giggles and a 90-minute class, we're just going to say it's because we don't write this word. All right. Okay. See, Charmony, it's better already. Okay, some reasons that sides are congruent. This is an excellent reference page for you, and it will make sense. And you will use this page as we move forward and we start doing our actual proofs. Okay. Some reasons that sides are congruent. So what's going to happen is we're going to start writing some proofs, and those of you that have no idea what that means is we're going to write some matching things that are going to match up, but you have to have a reason for everything to match up, okay? And this list right here is where your reasons are going to come from. This is a great resource. You're going to want to star this. We're going to refer back to this page a lot, okay? We're going to refer back to this page a lot. And then we have, again, CPCTC, right? We talked about that. If corresponding parts are congruent, then the triangles are congruent. We're not going to take time to write this, which ones match up. Okay? Let's do a couple, this is not your next page. Let's do a couple examples of figuring out whether it's side, 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 side angle, side, etc. Let me get to the page you're on. Okay. So you have your options at the top, which ones they are. Now, there may be one pair of triangles that don't match up. All right? So here's the thing. On number 1, at the top of this page, actually, I want you to write this down. There are 2 types of things that we look for that are not necessarily written. Okay? 2 types of things that we look for that are not necessarily written or given in our diagram. The first is vertical angles. Vertical angles will never be marked in our diagram, but we are always allowed to mark them. Thank you. Okay, vertical angles we're always going to look for and mark. And the new thing that we just barely touched on yesterday is the reflexive segment. That's the segment that they share. These things are never going to be marked for you, but you are allowed to mark them. Nothing else are you allowed to mark. So if you look at number 1, Do you see that they share this side right here? That middle side down the middle? So you are automatically allowed to mark it congruent to itself. So we're just going to put one hash mark through that side. So now if you look at this, I have an angle marked, and I have a side marked, and then I have an angle. And is the side in between the two angles? Yes. It is. So these two triangles are congruent by angle, side, angle. Okay. What about in number 2? Check for vertical angles and a reflexive segment. Brian, what were you going to say? Is there anything that's not marked that we should mark?
I was going to say is it side, side, side.
Okay, but if it's side, 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 I need 3 sides, and I only have 2 sides that match up. But what are we missing in this one?
The angles.
Okay, we don't have any angles, and we can't assume any angles. The reflexive segment, do you guys see? They share this, right? And whenever they share it, we always have to mark it. And we're going to mark it with 3 hash marks because 1 and 2 are already used. Okay, now, Brian, I would agree. Now it looks like side, side, side. Would you guys agree with that? Now, if you put an angle option in here, I'm going to look at you a little bit crazy because there are no angles marked at all in this diagram. So there should be no A in your reason because there are no angles marked at all. So this is side, side, side. Okay, now number 3, they're not touching. That's okay. So on number 3, we have an angle. What else do we have? We have a side marked and we have another angle. So when I have 2 angles marked and a side marked, it's either going to be angle, angle, side, or angle, side, angle, right? 2 angles and 1 side. It's one of these 2. So now you have to decide, is the side in the middle? Is the side in between the 2 angles? That would be this side or this side. And are those 2 sides marked? No. So it can't be angle, side, angle. So does it look like angle, angle, side?
I have a question.
Okay. Yes?
Are we allowed to look at it like one angle has 1 tally mark, the other one has 2, and then the side? Because like if there was a tally mark in between it, would it be angle, side, angle?
Yes.
Okay.
But there is no tally mark, hash mark in between it. Okay? Now, hey, also, sometimes I get this question. Sometimes students write this, side angle, angle. It's the same thing as this, right? And I'm not going to mark it wrong, but I would prefer you to do angle, angle, side. Okay? Again, it's the same thing, but just try to remember that it's angle, angle, side. Okay, number 4. Is there anything that we can mark in number 4? John? The reflexive segment down the middle. What's a huge hint in number 4? The right angle, Katie says. Right? And so the temptation here is to write angle, side, side. But we're not going to write angle, side, side because we don't write that in school. We are going to write what instead? HL. Now make sure that you mark the reflexive segment with 2 hash marks because we already have 1 hash mark in the diagram. Okay, what about number 5? Is there anything on number 5 that's not marked that we should be marking? What'd you say? What are those called? Guys, what are those called, Ashley? What are the angles in the middle called? Vertical angles is what she's whispering to you. Vertical angles. So I would also, guys, make yourself a note that this is vertical angles so you can remember. Remember, I wrote at the top of the page those 2 things. The 2 things you are allowed to mark, and one of them is vertical angles. Those are the only 2 things you are allowed to mark. Okay, so now I have angle and 2 sides. So an angle and 2 sides is either going to be angle, side, side, which we know is HL, or it might be side, angle, side. So 2 sides and 1 angle are these 2 options. If this was HL, what kind of an angle do I need? A right angle. Do I have a right angle in this diagram? No. Okay, so it can't be HL. Then if it's side, angle, side, the angle needs to be where?
In the middle.
In between the 2 sides. Is this angle in between the 2 sides?
No.
Yes.
Okay, look, here are my two sides. Here's the angle in between them. Is that angle marked? Nope. What about on the other side? Is this angle marked? Nope. So this is not side angle side. This is nothing. They are not congruent. They are not congruent. Yeah.
You're gonna like not like it, but number 11 is HL.
We're not even to number 11 yet.
Told you wouldn't like it.
I mean, it's a good question, but we're not there yet. Okay, number 6. We have these parallel lines. So now we have to see if there's anything else that we can mark with parallel lines. That should be a huge, whoa. Let's extend these parallel lines out. Okay, and then I have this transversal here. Would you guys agree that I have corresponding angles here and here? Do you guys see that? Sounds kind of hard to see. It's a little tricky. Corresponding angles we are allowed to mark. We know that they're true because we have parallel lines. Right, so I have my corresponding angles here and here. So I can mark those two angles congruent. So now I have two pairs of angles and a side. So this is either angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side, because two angles and one side. Which do you think that it is? Is the side in the middle? It is, right? Okay, so that's going to be angle, side, angle. And this just takes a lot of practice, okay? Hey, pull it together, please. Thank you. Number 7. Is there anything we can mark on number 7 that's not already marked? Monica? The middle, that's called the reflexive segment. Okay, so on number 7, we can go ahead and mark the reflexive segment. Not reflective, but reflexive.
That means it's congruent, right?
Yep, it means it's congruent to itself. What do you think this one is then? I have two sides marked and an angle. Katie says side, angle, side. Is the angle in between the two sides?
Yes.
It is. Side, angle, side. Okay, I'm going to give you a few minutes. I want you to do 8 through 12 on your own. Quickly. 8 through 12 on your own, please. Go ahead and pause the video if you're watching and mark 8 through 12. All right, let's come back together. Number 8. Is there anything I can mark in number 8? The reflexive, not reflective. Reflexive. And this one is what? Side, side, side. That's pretty easy. Side, side, side is the easiest one to see. Okay, number 8. There's been a lot of debate. You like how I rhymed there? Okay, this is a 90-degree angle already. So now we're on track for hypotenuse leg. So we got to make sure the hypotenuse is one of the sides that's marked. It is. And so is the leg. So this would be HL. But Monica asked a great question. She said, yeah, but I know that these are vertical angles. And I can mark them congruent. If I mark vertical angles congruent, I have angle, angle, side now. And that would also work. Angle, angle, side would also work on this one if you mark the vertical angles. Okay? So we'll put angle, angle, side here as well. Number 10. What do we mark on number 10? The vertical angles. We can't mark any other sides. Is this side, angle, side, angle? What is this one? Angle, angle, side, right? Because the side is not in the middle. Right? The side is not in between the two. It's not this side. So it can't be angle, side, angle. So it has to be angle, angle, side. Okay, and then number 11. What can I mark in number 11? The reflexive segment there. Can I mark anything else in number 11? Can you mark anything else? The angle of this one right here? It's not vertical, so I can't mark it. So this one is not congruent. I don't know anything else, and I'm not allowed to mark anything else. Not congruent. Okay, on number 12, what do we know? We have vertical angles, but if I mark vertical angles, I still have angle side side, and I'm not allowed to have angle side side unless I have what? A right angle. Okay? Anything else, though, in this diagram? We have parallel lines. And do you see here with parallel lines, cut by a transversal, we have alternate interior angles here. You guys see that? Alternate interior angles. Make yourself a note here because you're going to refer back to this page. We have alternate interior angles. If I have alternate interior angles, that means that now I could have two different things. I could have side angle side here. That would work. Or if you want to use the vertical angle, you have angle side angle. You guys see that? If you want to use the vertical angle, or you have angle side angle. Questions about that?